I was fired from my teaching job for showing my students a controversial historical photo. It wasn't what the principal thought. I never expected a history lesson to end my 12-year teaching career. The email from the principal came at 9 p.m. Meeting tomorrow, 7 a.m. Rugging inappropriate material shown to 10th graders. My stomach dropped. I'd been teaching American history for over a decade without a single complaint. The inappropriate material was a black and white photograph from 1960. I'd used it in my civil rights unit for years. When I arrived the next morning, the principal and vice principal were already seated with stern expressions. Several parents have complained about you showing pornography to minors, the principal began, sliding a printout across the table. It was the photograph minus Ruby Bridges being escorted to school by federal marshals, the first black child to integrate an all-white elementary school in Louisiana. This is pornography, I asked, genuinely confused. A parent said you showed naked people to students, the vice principal clarified, not meeting my eyes. Then it hit me. In the background of the famous image, barely visible protesters held signs with racial slurs. One sign had a crude stick figure drawing. That was the nudity they were referring to. This is a Pulitzer Prize-winning photograph documenting one of the most significant moments in civil rights history, I explained. The hatred these protesters displayed is precisely why this image is important. The principal shook his head. 3 parents have threatened to go to the school board. We can't risk the controversy. I was given 2 options: resignation with a reference or termination. 12 years of exemplary evaluations, 4 Pacer of the Year awards, and a waiting list for my classes, mine erased because parents couldn't distinguish between historical documentation and inappropriate content. I chose termination. Resignation would feel like admitting wrongdoing. That afternoon, my students organized a walkout when they learned why I was leaving. The school called their parents. Most supported their children. The irony wasn't lost on me. A photo showing the courage of a child facing hatred was deemed too controversial for students learning about that very hatred. 3 days later, the local newspaper ran a front-page story. Pruder fired for teaching history. My inbox filled with support from educators nationwide. Yesterday, the principal who fired me announced his early retirement after the school board received hundreds of complaints. The superintendent called, offering my job back with a formal apology. I declined. Instead, I accepted a position at the local university's education department, where I'll teach future teachers how to handle controversial historical topics. Sometimes losing your job means finding your voice. Now I am creating a textbook featuring all the controversial historical photos students need to see, minus including Ruby's brave walk to school that apparently still threatens people 60 years later. History isn't always comfortable. That's precisely why we must teach it.